This song is so peak. I love the title screen for Princess Quest. I didn't even realize I could do that this way. Oh, I need to change the thumbnail for this. I like throwing some theory bait in the thumbnails, just having like random images. We all know what they mean, but it's just very funny because it's all screenshots from my computer. I just find that very fun. Okay, what's this? Hello, hello, hello. Front and center. Which normally I don't like to do. But I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everyone's having a good weekend so far. I am doing pretty well, so. Overall, pretty good. Of Twitter for today. For a lifetime after. I had to go on there for my fix for Scott's Games. They actually finally released the poster, not poster, but the art from Snartles for Tiger Rock, which everyone was very excited for. Why does it keep giving me all those options? I don't care. Hope everyone's doing well. And begin to do what we always do, which is Yep. Let me throw up, Welcome, welcome. No one is here, here to yap. Well, I am here. I am here to yap. So, you know what? Excuse you. I'm yapping. Well, I'm not yapping. I'm about to. Alright, give me a chance. I've only been streaming for like 5 minutes. Gosh, give me one moment to breathe. I'm still setting up everything. I wonder what that would do with this. No one else is in chat? Well, you are. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Then again, I don't know. Depends. Some of you guys can be a little bit rowdy, so, you know, it just depends on how well behaved you guys are, because sometimes you guys come out with, like, the craziest comments, alright? I'm being honest. Hold on. I'm gonna... How's the audio mixing and everything? Do I sound okay? Because I did do some adjustments, but I've never been able to get it to have, like, a super crisp sound, and I don't really know how. But I do think it's low. I'm gonna check settings. Auto. So I saw some pretty exciting things come out today, so I do want to check out the new game theory, because apparently it's got some meta-commentary on the FNAF community and the things that we miss, I guess. I watched a little bit of it. I thought it was pretty good, but apparently its conclusion is pretty interesting, and I think it's worth talking about. But more importantly, ID's Fantasy released a video how Undertale and FNAF have the same story, and I literally, like, my jaw dropped, and I was so excited, because I'm like, yes, please, yes, more Undertale content, please, yes. Always, always, always love Undertale, love FNAF. Both great universes. Oh, there's plenty of stuff to look into. Okay, what am I trying to look for? System. No, it's all good. So it's on OBS then. I believe Jurassic Park and FNAF are basically the same. I mean... I can't argue with you. I don't think I can. But dinosaurs aren't animatronics. I guess both of them kill you, but dinosaurs do a much better job of it, I think. To sum it up, the attraction was great, but it went wrong. You know what? That's fair. I like that. Imagine Freddy Fazbear just coming up and like coming straight up to you and being like, "Hey, how was the fall? How was the fall?" And then you look back and you're like, "But I thought it was summer." The very creature that were made to entertain us are now killing people. It's a metaphor for capitalism. Dude, I'm so excited about Beyond the Spider-Verse, man. I'm so ecstatic. I know it's coming out next year and I'm not ready. If you don't know, that was a reference. It's a metaphor for capitalism. Oh man. Alright. So make sure everything's good over here. Turn it up a little bit. Okay. Interesting. Well, I hope everyone is doing alright. I've said that a lot, but, you know, I'll say it again. I've been seeing some interesting speculation online. I think, okay. I think I want to go ahead and do the reaction. No, not everyone's here, but I think it'll be interesting. Let's go ahead and watch Game Theory's new video, because I haven't finished it yet. I kind of want to. I want to watch it. I want to give it an honest shake. I do like Tom, Game Theory. I like Tom a lot. I think that he's great. I like that, he's one of us. I think we can say that. I don't know why, but it feels like I was seeing a lot of stuff on Twitter that people were like dreading this video for some reason, as if the thumbnail wasn't just completely assumed bait. But for some reason, everyone kind of just believed it. But I think this is going to be like an earnest, in good faith commentary. So I do like Game Theory. I still do. I don't watch it as much as I once did, but I do watch it on occasion, and I do enjoy the theories. I know they came up with some Deltarune theories. Those always get ripped to shreds. I don't really know why. I mean, I watched a theory that was like released a day after from somebody who's deeply in the community, who nearly had an identical theory to the Sans theory that they put out, and yet still Game Theory gets the brunt of criticism. Not necessarily saying it's right or wrong, but at the end of the day, it's a theory. So, you know. But this is different. This isn't necessarily like a complete theory. This is commentary.
Again, orders and...
Okay, so this is Tom, Game Theory. I think this would be fun to check out, so this is my reaction. And said that animatronics, but John, if Pirates of the Caribbean breaks down, the pirates don't eat the tourists. That's fair. That's fair. That's great. Alright, get ready for a ride. Alright.
What's up with FNAF in 2026? Since the release of Secret of the Mimic, I've noticed a trend within FNAF YouTube that says a lot about the state of the franchise and why its audience feels the way it does. Hello Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that's actually kinda starting to miss that creepy old bear. It's been over a year since Secret of the Mimic, 8 months since the second movie, and then basically nothing. There's been no new games, no new books. The closest we got was Scott jumping into Dorco's livestream and telling us about him working on a sequel, but nothing about when that would come out.
And nothing worked? Really? Interesting. Man, that's funny. I guess you gotta constantly improve on things, right? And I think, okay, so immediately addressing the elephant in the room, I am so annoyed whenever it comes to this conversation, and yet I understand it, right? Because I'm the same way. I'm, jumping at the bit for a new game. I would love a new game, right? But I think that we just got Secret of the Mimic last year, right? Like, the whole thing of the wave of information we're getting right now is due to the time they took to gather it all, right? You gotta have stuff to say stuff. So it's like, why can't we just wait? Like, why can't we? And I get it. The only exception that I'll say is that I think we should absolutely have news on Five Laps at Freddy's at this point and have some clarifications from Scott. That is the only exception because that is a promised game with a set date for this year. However, there was so much overblown speculation on all of the canceled games that were never confirmed. There's no confirmation that any of the games that were talked about ever were actually canceled. And we know that just because somebody says it was that worked on it in the past that was privately contracted out doesn't mean that necessarily they're in the know. It's just an assumption on their part, right? We had that with Five Laps at Freddy's where somebody said the project was canceled. However, since January when that post came out with the whole releasing the soundtrack of Five Laps at Freddy's in January, we've received Steam updates, so we know it's not canceled. It's just they're working on it, right? We had let me actually look at this. The Steam DB for Five Laps at Freddy's. Like I can look at the Steam DB. The last recorded update was July 8th. So, I mean, last month. So, it's still I still think that we need information on it. I'd like to see more on what they're working on with it, but at the end of the day, when it released, it was a mess, so they're making sure that it's all good. What happened to the Steam? Do you ever use IndieDB? I don't think so. I think I've heard of that, but I don't know. Is that another data metric thing? IndieDB? Interesting. I don't know why I looked at that and immediately thought of... Interesting. Okay, I'll have to check that out later. You heard it because Scott also posted FNAF games in there? Oh, really? I didn't realize that. I'm slow? Oh, no, that's alright. What happened to the stream? No, I think we're okay. I just paused it. Sorry. What I was saying is basically like, listen, we don't know anything, but now we're starting to get some more information. But that was because there was stuff going on in the background, right? Where they're ramping up for the production for FNAF 3. There's a lot of stuff going on. And besides, when the books were out and everyone was getting new content, we spent the whole time infighting about it. So, it's like when we have content, we're damned if we do, damned if we don't, So it's like, I don't know. It's just that whole element. I just feel like we need to be a little bit more positive about it whenever it comes to the outlook.
Five Laps was supposed to come out this year.
Yeah, again, okay. Just shut your mouth and watch the freaking video, because if you do, then they'll talk about the thing that you're gonna talk about. But again, this is a reaction, so just calm down.
Nothing about it. We didn't even get any DLC from Steelwool. Instead, they just shared us these teasers, and trust me, we'll get to that. Those teasers did end up announcing Security Breach 2, and we got an announcement from Mega Cat Studios about FNAF World 2. But the point is, it's been a fairly dry spell for FNAF recently in the physical...
Which, by the way, in most franchises, you don't get a game every year, or you get long spans of time where communities are waiting years for announcements of games, or waiting for their favorite game to be revived. That just never does, because corporate... We're so lucky, okay? All right, the fact that we literally get everything we ever asked for. We claimed at the... Like, we were asking over and over, hey, give us FNAF 2, World 2. Give us FNAF World 2. And then we got it. Like, you know how crazy that is? I don't know.
Cool things department, and it's the largest we've had in years. Usually we could fill the void with books or just some constant new discoveries from massive environments like we saw with Security Breach, but not this time. And that's done something very interesting. For the first time, FNAF theorists have nothing to really talk about, which has left some actually a little worried. A big part of theorizing is about looking forward, trying to figure out what the story is so that we can figure out what...
Yeah, this is a new game theory. It's kind of more of a meta theory. It's talking about, like, general reception and kind of where the FNAF franchise is at the moment, and potentially why there's been like kind of lower reception to the newer games. You think anyone downloads FNAF games from there nowadays? Probably not, I would say.
What comes next?
I don't know.
I mean, just look at the amount of predictions that I did on Secret of the Mimic. But with nothing new to talk about, there's nothing new to work with. Instead, we're just left with the story that exists right now, and that has done something really strange. As I've been keeping up with the theorists from across the YouTube space, I noticed that the new videos they were releasing almost all had a similar theme. What do you notice about this video?
Yeah, I do agree.
What about this one? This one? What about all of these? What do they all have in common? They're all focused on the Afton era of games, FNAF 1 through to Ultimate Custom Night. And this isn't just me pointing fingers. My first FNAF theory of this year was a thought experiment about whether there are two Mikes, another Afton era character. Every now and again, a theory focused on Secret of the Mimic or Security Breach does surface. John FNAF actually did a fantastic one recently.
I will say that theory is overflow from the FNAF 2 movie, so it's not like unjustified that your first theory would be something related to the FNAF movie, right? I mean, that's new content, and FNAF 2 was, you know, old FNAF content after an era, so...
About the original lore of Security Breach, but the overwhelming majority of theories over the last year have focused on these older games, and I find this fascinating. Given the amount of pure information in games like Security Breach, to the point where people are still finding new clues.
But it took a while. It took a while with Security Breach. There was a large gap between whenever Game Theory kind of ramped down their commentary on Security Breach and the time that we talked about this when John FNAF posted that video. That video at like literally skyrocketed interest in Security Breach. And so while I understand what he's saying here, the fact is that it took a while for Security Breach 2 to like catch on. And I think that it just takes one person being like, hey, there's more to this game than it seems. There's more layers. Let's look into this more. For us to really go back and start getting into it again, right? Steelwool said that there were things in Security Breach that gamers have yet to find. See, that is true. It was Sans SNES. Yeah.
Why aren't people diving deeper into that? When we had a game with as strong a story as Secret of the Mimic, why are theorists moving on so quickly? When we have mysteries like Chica's secret freaking party, why are people...
I love this so much. Listen, I know what you can have your opinions on this. Chica's secret party is like one of my most favorite things ever. I made the thumbnail this on purpose. All right, it's bait, but it's also... This is so fun. I love the fact that there's just like this ARG element to it where Scott just is like, yeah, back in 2016, I made a mini game that you've never heard of, doesn't exist, and includes elements that couldn't possibly have been there. But have fun. But this is very clearly a guide that we're going to be using for a different game to come, right? And there was a post that Steel was posting whenever Help Wanted 2 was announced that were weird Easter eggs to things that we would see later in Secret of the Mimic, right? So the thing that's important to remember is the story is not over, and I think that is important because as the games come out, things are going to start retroactively making more sense as to why they did this. And I think also it's important to understand the framing of what Secret of the Mimic was meant to do, because it was specifically a launching point for the future game. It's so strange to me that everyone's like, oh, Security Breach is going to be 2 is going to be a prequel, when the whole point of Secret of the Mimic was, okay, now we're going to explain what the Mimic is so that you know what's about to happen in the future. In order to understand the future, to see the future, you have to understand the past. So it's like, I don't know. I just played through Ruin for the first time last weekend, and it is not scary. I do like Ruin, but genuinely was not scared. I think I jumped once, and I think that's okay. I mean, Ruin, to me, at least, I feel like... And here's the thing, right? To me, at least, FNAF has always had a great sense of atmosphere. I think Ruin has some good atmosphere to it, but not like scary atmosphere. Ruin is cool. Like, it's got such a cool aesthetic to it. It's freaking awesome. I love Ruin so much. I think that the story that it creates is really, really fun, but I think the horror comes in things that are implicit rather than explicit, right? And that's always how it's been, right? You've never had a game that's been like gory, bloodbath. Oh my gosh, there's bodies everywhere. Even though in Secret of the Mimic there were bodies everywhere. But you get what I mean. It's never been explicit horror. It's always been implicit. It's thinking about the implications, the psychological element of it that really gives it its horror. Because I think there is horror to Ruin, but it's implicit, right? The scare factor isn't necessarily there. Security Breach has some genuinely scary atmosphere in certain of its sections that I think does pretty well. Go watch The Thing. I mean, we will.
Talking about the old days. Well, dear theorists, I did a bit of a deep dive into this, and so now I'm going to take you on that journey, because the answers I found by reflecting on our theories and talking to other theorists in the space revealed some really interesting stuff about how the franchise has evolved over the years, what the state of FNAF is in 2026, and why theorizing has moved in the direction it has.
Yeah, I understand.
What is the main goal of FNAF theorizing? I'll give you a second to write them in the comments, and while you do, maybe you can just hit that subscribe button.
I mean, the point of FNAF theorizing is just in basically just interacting with the games in a meaningful way, right? It's discussion, it's having fun. It's about trying to predict things before they happen, because that's fun, right? I mean, theorizing is just literally like, let's come up with some interesting ideas based off of established concepts, and we'll see if it happens. Where is it streaming? Oh, hold on, you're looking at the stuff.
Great. As far as I and many other theorists are concerned, the main reason we theorize is to figure out the story. From day one, the story of FNAF was cryptic, hidden, and vague. There's a reason our first video was using a real-life Chuck E. Cheese event as an allegory, because otherwise there's not a huge amount to go off of. As time's gone on, more and more has been added to the story, but that doesn't mean the clues got less cryptic. Now, there were secret minigames you unlocked if you died, or punched random codes into wall tiles. Then, 12 years have gone by, and we still don't fully understand the story. But this is where the divide comes in. As I mentioned, FNAF is split into two halves, the Scott era and the Steel Wool era. Or, if you want to stick to in-universe names, the Afton era and the Mimic era. The Mimic era is still ongoing, but the Afton era, technically speaking...
Hold on. I don't think I actually did. Game theory no longer makes crazy theories. They only take a popular theory in the fan base. But yet, whenever they make a crazy theory, they get absolutely crucified for it. So, I mean, you can understand how they start to want to play it safe and be more so a landing pad or a launching pad for other people to be exposed to those franchises rather than making theories that everyone just ends up hating. I mean, again, they do actually have to play it safe because effectively, I mean, they explain this. I mean, it's the entire reason that they're making their platform is so that they can be a little bit more, take a little bit more risks, because it's become very corporatized, you know, unfortunately. In their musical, they kind of explained the whole process, and it's very corporatized now. But I think there's still a lot of creativity. I just think that it's locked behind the algorithm, really, and the communities. Because every time they try to make a theory, it doesn't matter what it is, they get hate, right? They still get the already existing theory wrong. At the end of the point isn't being right. The point is having fun and trying to engage with different communities that are really cool. So, I mean, it's okay if they're wrong.
is over. Sure, the Mimic era is still throwing stuff at us like Afton's email to buy Murray's costume Mana in Secret of the
like
Mimic, or Vanessa being related to an Afton in some way, but as a whole, the Afton era is completely over. His story is wrapped up. We started with a man who killed 5 kids in a back room and
no, not understanding the evidence of the theories. Well, I don't necessarily fully agree with that. I think that everyone has different interpretations. If you look at the Deltarune community, right, I watched so many freaking different videos that were all incredibly fun and entertaining, that had entirely contradictory premises, used evidence in completely different ways, and yet I enjoyed every single one of them, and now I think everyone is the knight. So at the end of the day, it isn't about being right, it is about having fun and engaging with the community and engaging with the content. They say things that the original theory didn't say. That's what I meant by not getting them right. Like, what do you mean? No, not understanding the evidence of the theories. They still get the already existing theories wrong. Like, they're trying to summarize like a popular theory and they get that wrong. Like, that's not what it's about.
stuffed them into suits, and it ended with a man stuck in purgatory being forever tortured by the souls of one of his victims.
Honestly, as a fan, I don't want to know the whole story, but just give us some answers to some things. I think I agree with that.
It's a pretty clean and cathartic ending. However, even with the ending too,
You're talking about the same theory? The wrong way. Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, it's hard.
Call it the A-plot. There was still plenty of mysteries to solve. Who was the vengeful spirit? What's the name of the crying child? What is in the box? But with Ultimate Custom Night, it felt like a final hurrah from Scott. It seemed like he was trying to actively wrap up the loose ends, which would mean that everything we needed to solve those unsolved mysteries were available to us. We just needed to look harder. Yes, Scott might come and add more context in future games, like I've said, but technically speaking, everything we need should be right here in these games. This idea, I think, was solidified when we were fully introduced to the Mimic in recent games. Thanks to the idea that Glitch Trap may just be a corrupted AI Mimic program that was trained on Afton's data, it means that Afton is well and truly gone from.
Well, Scott did specifically say that Glitch Trap is a combination of haunted material and AI. So it's not necessarily just an AI that's corrupted by bad data. The data is in some way supernatural or like paranatural in a way. So it's like there is an added element, and it could be related to Afton still, because we know that at least with the Vanessa connection, that like Afton is in some way connected. The legacy.
The story. Right? His legacy would still have an impact on future events, but his story is over. And that idea of a closed loop where all the pieces are in place for us is incredibly appealing as theorists, because that would offer us a foundation in which to build up all future theories, rather than it just being this Jenga tower that will topple over if one piece of information changes. And with so many small details left unsolved, we all flood back to those old games to try and see if we can solidify our foundation before we then move forward, leading to an influx of theories about.
Is replying to your argument that they have to take popular theories instead of making them their own because they get hate. But that's not what I said. I mean, I think they can come up with original theories, but more so that their theories tend to be effectively just like explanations of what the game's about, or like simple observations or things that are genuinely safe. Right, and I will agree with that, but I don't necessarily think just like pre-established things, though, you know. I think there is defense. I think game theory is fun still. I think it's still entertaining.
Out those unsolved mysteries. It doesn't help that the story we have solved from that era, at least on a basic level, just feels like a better story than the one we're getting now. The details and orders of events are still hotly debated, but the story of the first few games is the story of a family that was met with tragedy after tragedy. The eldest son.
I mean, to be quite frank, I think that the story that's presented, at least as far as game theory is concerned, and the larger community, because effectively the story that they presented is the one that's been accepted for so long, I don't agree with. I think it's wrong. Like, that's the fun thing, is like, I don't think it's correct. I think that the story of FNAF, at least 1 through 6, isn't about the Afton family at all. I mean, the family does exist in Sister Location and FNAF 6, and but that's it as far as I'm concerned. Then you have like the Silver Eyes, the comparisons with like Henry, some really interesting FNAF 4 connections there between like the puppet and the FNAF 4 crying child. But to me at least, and that's a completely different thing of Worms, most people will disagree with what I'm saying right now, but what I think is that the story isn't about the family, it's about the MCI. The missing children's incident is the driving force of every single game, right? FNAF 1, you get it through the newspapers. FNAF 2, it's the struggle of them trying to save them, right? To change the past, but they can't, right? With the third movie, what the heck, the third game, right? It's all about revenge, trying to escape from their happiest day, the fantasy that's been created by William Afton. And then in the fourth game, you get the kind of culmination of everything where you get to kind of get the explanation for Golden Freddy, mixed that with like FNAF World as an additional piece to that, where seemingly something is trying to guide this child through memories of a past trauma. And that one's complicated, right? There's a lot of elements to it, but at the end of the day, it's still about the MCI. The MCI are still present. Um, and we could get into that. That kind of requires a little bit more explanation. So, do you think that these are the stories of missing children, not necessarily William's family? William's family is a component of it, but it doesn't come up until Sister Location. I think Foxy Bro is just Foxy Bro. I think it's just a random family, right? That's connected to a tragedy that does have an impact, but not necessarily the focal point. I think that it is a story that is self-contained. But it does have ramifications because we know somehow William got a hold of the nightmares, right? So it's like that's what I think also. Yeah, I mean the reason I think that, right, is because to me at least I feel like that for all the games, we are effectively the antagonist, right? We are fighting against the animatronics because they're trying to get to William, right? And I think for most of the games, in a way, we're in the way of that. Um, so and that's speculation. That's not necessarily confirmed, but at least for some of them we are. So it is pretty interesting. But that's kind of where I get into a little bit of a conflict with this is the fact that like I don't think people understand the story at all. I mean, but that's okay. Like you can have a different interpretation. If you believe that Michael is Fritz Smith, Fitzgerald, whatever, and is also Mike Schmidt, even though the only person within the Afton family that is associated with changing aliases is William Afton specifically, and he's done it twice now. So it's like that's a common theme, but it's not really with Michael. Michael doesn't change his name. I mean, sometimes he's called Mike, but in the movie, he doesn't really like being called Mike, which is kind of interesting.
Bullies the youngest son until one day he takes it too far and he gets chomped by one of the animatronics at their father's work. The daughter gets scooped by one of her father's creations. The father, either out of compassion or a desperate desire for knowledge, commits to putting the family back together, killing a bunch of kids and
And that, okay, all right, we talked about this yesterday. I will put you back together does not mean I will physically put you back together in the real world. If you look at the fourth closet, it specifically uses the same phrasing as FNAF 4 whenever Carlton gets stabbed in the heart by William Afton and goes into the afterlife. Michael greets him and then talks about how he will put his friends back together again. It is something that is specifically happening in the afterlife. That is why it's completely pitch black, which is exactly how it's described in the fourth closet. When Carlton's in there, there's this strange shadowy curtain of darkness that's covering everything that slowly starts to lift as more and more of the MCI start to gather more of their memories. So the more of their identity that they gather together, they are putting themselves back together. And Golden Freddy, Michael, is the one doing that. So William is not the one saying, I will put you back together. It is in my mind, I think it's Cassidy, the Golden Freddy spirit, right? That is helping the crying child. I think there's a lot of weird things going on with Cassidy, and I think it's something that has not been explored. But there's some weird stuff in FNAF World that we've been exploring that gets into some of the strange contradictions with the character that makes the motivations very unclear. And I'm still trying to figure that. I need to finish FNAF World before I make like final judgments on it. But I don't know. I don't think we are playing as the same person every time. Interesting. Like when you get the hand unit and it says Mike on it, that doesn't mean that you are Mike. That has always bothered me. The fact that it's already there is weird, right? And especially since we do know that there was a previous security guard that was there, that built like the makeshift hiding place. I don't know, it is kind of strange, but in the files, it is interesting that it calls out Michael Afton. But I also think the Mike could be just a red herring, right? It could be like, oh, it's Mike from FNAF 1, but then you realize, oh crap, it's an Afton. It's William Afton's son. That's crazy, right? So it could be a troll, which we know he did it with FNAF 2, so it's not unlike Scott.
Experimenting to see if their souls could live on and even be brought back. The eldest son also ends up scooped, however, he doesn't die and goes on to try and make amends for everything that he and his father did, eventually burning everything to the ground. Again, orders and specific details vary from theorist to theorist, but the core concept is really strong. Afton is a very compelling villain. He preys on children, so immediately our minds label him as the most evil kind of character. If you believe that he actually cared for his kids and his actions were out of a misguided love, then he's even more compelling, as essentially he's a broken-hearted man who made a mistake and went mad as a result. Michael's arc of older brother bully to selfless hero is a—
Chad, welcome. I'm back. I just got done playing VR and I came to watch YouTube and saw your life. Well, thank you, Chad. Welcome in. What VR game were you playing? That's pretty awesome. Here, I'm gonna continue.
Fantastic arc, and after several games with him, it feels so—
Again, I was talking to somebody in Discord about this. I've mentioned this before. This concept right here is something that I like to call, and it's not, listen, it's a rough example, but I think that it's fun to reference because I just like the game. I like to call this lamp posting. It's the idea, it's from the beginner's guide, if you've seen that game. It's the idea of putting an anchor at the end of something, a connecting point between games that doesn't exist but has to in order for it to make sense to you personally. But it is fanon. It is not, it's headcanon. It's not canon, but it is your interpretation. But I think Michael Afton is effectively a lamppost. It's something that we put at the end of every game and connect it together, even if it doesn't fit perfectly, because it has to, because we want to have a continuous story.
Good when he finally wins, ending the cycle in our minds and absolving him. Even David, the crying child, and Elizabeth are interesting characters to follow. One wanting nothing more than to make daddy proud regardless of the evil because she just doesn't know any better, and one who is so broken and scared that other spirits have to come together to help him find peace. These characters are so interesting because we can connect with them on some level. We might have—
But like the connections to that are so vague. I mean, the thing is, right, we make the connections. We make the story effectively. We connect it from point to point to point. There's plenty of games that are like that are really, really fun and have really unique stories that you can really genuinely get deep into and try to understand. And it's really, really fun. But you have to go into it knowing that this is something that you probably don't know if you're ever going to be right about, you know?
Have felt that feeling of loss, or being scared, or wanting to make up for past mistakes. Or it's just the fact that we like to see stories of humans triumphing over other humans that we deem as evil. The issue with the story we have now is there aren't really any humans in it. And the ones we do have, we know very little about, to the point where we don't even know if we can call them heroes. Gregory was evil then.
Is evil. He is evil currently. Gregory is evil. Sorry to say.
He wasn't, but maybe he still is. And other than killing a few therapists, we know nothing about his life before or after security breach that makes us connect with him. Vanessa, we have some backstory for.
Okay, this makes me upset. This genuinely makes me upset. You know why? We didn't freaking get the names of the MCI kids until freaking FNAF 6, okay? We didn't know what to call the main freaking, like, focus of the story until FNAF 6. The only reason we have any characterizations is because of a spin-off book that is not even on the same timeline as the games, which is the Silver Eyes. And it's interesting to me how much of a book debate we had whenever most of our theories are based on book facts, like things from the books that get traveled into the games, and then we assume that they're the same characters. And they are, right? In certain respects, that is exactly what we should do. There's nothing wrong with that. But this idea that the reason we aren't connecting with the games is because there's no human characters when the main focus of the entire franchise is animatronic bear and animal characters, which, like, look, guys, it's I think the story of Secret of the Mimic is probably one of the best stories we've ever gotten, and one of the most character driven ones that we do actually get real humans, right? We have Arnold, and yet you still have the same problem. With Ruin, it was Cassie, right? Somebody who was much more empathetic, somebody much more connected to, and someone through Escape the Pizzaplex we learn a lot more about, right? So I don't quite know where this is going. It's fine. I mean, I think that it's a fine interpretation, but it's one that I don't really agree with. You know?
But because it's so unclear if she's an Afton or just some random girl, it becomes hard to know how much emotional investment.
Look, listen, okay, guys. Look at Princess Quest. Look at the Candy Cadet stories. Look at the therapy tapes. You can find characterization in those. Also, look at the FNAF AR emails. They have some interesting characterizations for Vanessa as well that shows, right, that it's a very conflicted character, but somebody who's, like, running away from her trauma or her past. Like, we know a lot about Vanessa. We know more about Vanessa than we do about William Afton. I mean, we know nothing about William Afton outside of the books, but within the actual games, we learn more about Vanessa in Security Breach that she barely appears in physically through, like, the therapy tapes, which is, like, one of the main pieces of exposition. Gregory is not evil. No, Gregory is evil. You can't change
Should
my mind.
put into
Can't
her.
change my
Cassie
mind on that.
seems nice. She was a kid with no friends until Gregory came along. But
Yeah.
what else? Her dad worked for Fazbear, and we think we play as him in Help Wanted 2, but what's their relationship? We don't know. And the main villain in all of this, an AI robot. They tried to give it a sympathetic backstory. It was just a child, and it got beaten up by its dad, and
They tried? Did you not like Secret of the Mimic, Tom? I'm
worked for
sad.
Fazbear, and we think we
Right.
play as him in Help Wanted 2, but what's their relationship? We don't know. And the main villain in all of this, an AI robot. They
I would say I wonder if Cassie's dad in some way is a parallel to Edwin, right? Not necessarily in, like, the abuse, but more so in the negligence, right? Somebody who's so enthralled with work that kind of is neglectful towards their child and kind of leaves caring up to the Pizzaplex, considering the fact that, like, we don't really know much about it, but I feel like we are going to find out a lot more in Security Breach 2. And again, I feel like Help Wanted 2 and Secret of the Mimic were necessary to build it up. I think the Mimic has great characterization. I think it's a very compelling character. And I think it's going to get more compelling as it goes on.
tried to give it a sympathetic backstory. It was just a child, and it got beaten up by its dad and lost its legs. But at the end of the day, we just can't connect with a robot the same way we can.
I mean, no, yeah, absolutely you can. Are you kidding? We tend to what's the word? There's a word for this where we effectively connect with something that's non-living, even though we try to give something that's non-human human traits, right? And connecting with it. And with the Mimic, right, it's something we aren't necessarily supposed to immediately connect with, right? But once you learn its story and understand what it is, you realize that the mimic is effectively a parallel to Vanessa, right? The reluctant follower, someone who's being forced to play a role, right? You get into the whole idea of archetypes, the fact that Secret of the Mimic is effectively a Greek tragedy, something that was presented in the introduction of it, where it was one of the creative leads of it posted a quote that is from Shakespeare's play of Julius Caesar, right? It is meant to be a Greek tragedy, something that is, emphasized, right? You have the fatal flaw of man, right? That leads us down this dark path that is unavoidable and almost fated, right? You have M1, which is like a fascinating character, someone who is desperately trying to be human and can't physically do it, and is trying to create this plan to recreate David as through this animatronic. It's very interesting. But hate the character. He has no emotion, but he is the ultimate manipulator. Interesting. You hate the character. He has no emotion. I would say has a singular emotion, that would be anger, right? If you listen to the tape that he's addressing Edwin, it's very savage. You can see a lot of reflections back to Edwin getting his words thrown back in his face, right? That's really fun.
With a human that was abused by their father. Like,
well, yeah, Donnie, that's the whole point. The whole point is that the mimic is just rage personified. It is a manifestation of our own internal negative tendencies that is thrown back at us, right? And it's what Vanny is to Vanessa. Vanny is all of Vanessa's worst traits thrown back at her. With Greg is Gregory's worst parts of him thrown back at him. It is a mirror, a reflection, right? So, I mean, it's intended to be a reflection of Edwin. And M1 is a stereotypical archetypal concept of a thing that Edwin wished into existence, right? With his want to have a provider for his child. So you can also watch Prehistoric Planet after this thing.
Or in the Afterarc. I'm not saying we can never relate to robots. Certain movies do really good jobs of this. It's just that FNAF ain't one of them. Now, Scott and Steelwell did try to fix this lack of tragic relatable human issue with Secret of the Mimic, introducing us to the Murray household. A wife who tragically dies in a fire, a son who dies in the loading bay of the factory, and a father so obsessed with his work he neglected both of them until one day his own creation kills him. That is a compelling story.
Yeah.
The problem is, in the modern part of the story, they're all dead now, at least from what we can tell. Which means while they did create the right kind of characters and backstories, we don't put too much value on them because they're not around to continue to affect the story like David and Elizabeth were. And so, creators are naturally more drawn to these
I'm confused by that too.
older games because the characters, their stories, and motivations are just far more interesting to talk about and explore. Did William care or not? Is the crying child actually the vengeful spirit and not so meek? Was William the drunk father in Midnight Motorist, or was it someone else? All of these questions are far more interesting as they change our perspective on these characters and their actions. They flesh them out into 3D characters rather than archetypes, and there's plenty of information.
That is the point. The archetype is the point. That was the whole thing with Secret of the Mimic, was that it's based on archetypes. Sorry, he's triggered me with the word archetype.
To pull from compared to the newer era characters who have so little to show us. Okay, I might be getting a little worked up over this. I'm just really passionate about this particular topic, but thankfully I can let off some steam with today's sponsor, War Thunder. If you don't know, War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made.
Go past the
FNAF. Of course, YouTube was always going to play a part in why YouTubers picked to talk about certain topics. It's no secret that FNAF has pretty much always performed well on YouTube. It's what really boosted this channel into the stratosphere and launched the careers of so many other FNAF theorists we know and love today. But in recent times, there is something else.
It's not the main character. That's interesting. I mean, Scott doesn't put things in for no reason. I mean, that's true. Why would he reveal the name of the character, Mike, by putting it on hand unit if it's not the main character? I mean, I don't know.
That has been performing well across the platform. Nostalgia. I'm sure you've seen it. Long video essays about old cartoons or video games from your childhood that you thought no one else knew about. As a personal example for me, I love Cat Icarus. His stuff is just great, but it relates perfectly to my nostalgia as I was a PlayStation kid. I know, rip. But when he comes out with a several hour long video about a Rugrats game, it immediately gets recommended to me. Audiences love nostalgia. They love to remember the simpler times, and so YouTube gives some level of favor to these videos. Therefore, people talking about old FNAF fits the criteria way more. People are nostalgic for the old days of FNAF.
They want you to read the book about the Mimic. I don't know about the Mimic. Why would they change FNAF? FNAF is FNAF.
You have to remember, FNAF is now 12 years old. For people like me, FNAF has been a huge part of my adult life. It came out when I was 20. But for others, it was...
I think that's the thing that gives me a little bit of an advantage here because I am a rather new FNAF fan, right? I started, was introduced to it. I mean, I've always kind of known it existed, but didn't really know what it was. That was until whenever, I think it was like 2020, whenever I really started getting into game theory. And that's what really opened my eyes, not even just to FNAF, but also to horror, because I was a scared little guy. So I was like, not really into horror, and then I was like, horror's kind of interesting, and then I got into it more with GT Live, where I started watching the more wholesome ones, and then I was like, hey, I want to watch the horror things, that looked scary, and then I got into that. That was fun, right? So FNAF is, game theory is how I got into FNAF, but that was before Security Breach, so I got to see some of the hype for, like, so some of the games, right, like Curse of Dreadbear and stuff like that would come out, and that wasn't like too that was back in I think 2019, but I didn't see that one. I watched the VOD for it though. This is pretty cool though.
Literally their childhood. Those who are now 20 started watching when they were 8. So regardless of what age you were at the time, this franchise and specifically those older games are nostalgic to you, reminding you of a simpler time where you would just sit and watch a deep-voiced man yell at a screen or some theater nerd go insane trying to make connections about the story. And so YouTube is more than happy to recommend those videos to you, which also means that when creators make videos about nostalgic topics like old FNAF, they get recommended more and more. Suddenly, they can hire an editor or a thumbnail artist, or heck, maybe they can just finally take this YouTube thing full time. And so people want to make more videos about the topic because that's what's working in the YouTube zeitgeist right now. But this also ties into my next point, which is with that aging audience, there's another knock-on effect, the introduction of new theorists. Like I said, in 2014, you had people like Matt, Dorco, 8-Bit Ryan, Razbowski giving their thoughts, which stirred up the fandom. Kids and young adults started to come up with their own theories. Maybe they shared it with their friends. Maybe they shared it with a few people online in comments or on Twitter or Reddit. But really, those theories were largely left in obscurity, just sitting in the back of their minds. Now, 12 years have passed. The younger people who were watching those videos and coming up with those pet theories have now grown up. And so, some of them decided, you know what, I'm going to share my own theories with the world. Combine that with the lack of new FNAF content, and we start to see new YouTubers pop up. In the drought after Security Breach, we saw the likes of John FNAF, Right Toast, ID's Fantasy, Hyperdroid, and a bunch more gain popularity for their fresh takes on the franchise. In the recent drought post Secret of the Mimic, we've seen people like T-Dreads, Unwithered Truth, Gibby's Horror Home Instead, she's always awkward, and again, many others. And in a few years, I'm sure we'll see even more. But what this means is all those theories that people came up with all those years ago now get to see the light of day. They want to share the stuff that's been bubbling away inside of them for years, because that was the stuff that made them fall in love with the franchise. It's not to say they hate the new stuff, they just haven't had as much time to ruminate on it. What theory do you think is going to be stronger? The one you've had a year to think about, or the one that you've had 10 years?
I will also say, okay, the other reason that a lot of these older theories are starting to come back up again is because of Secret of the Mimic. Because Secret of the Mimic is the earliest game in the timeline, so of course it's going to have rippling effects for the entire franchise. And it has a lot of pieces, right, for supernatural stuff, for, technical stuff, for timeline stuff, right? There was a lot of revelations that we got with Secret of the Mimic that also focused on things like FNAF 4. So, I mean, it just makes sense, right, that you would have all of these things that would retroactively be shown. Because a lot of the reasons that they're going back to the older games is because of things like the theory for, like, God David, right? Or these things that, like, okay, where's the Mimic going? So even if they have older thumbnails, a lot of these theories aren't necessarily about just old FNAF. It's also about how does the new information that we got through Secret of the Mimic apply to the current games and older games alike, right? And because all of them have reached back and, referenced things from the past. And of course, that's going to have ramifications, right? And especially that's going to increase with like things like FNAF World 2, right? The idea of like, okay, well, let's go back and play FNAF World like I've been doing. So I don't know. I think there's more complications and it's not as new, like it's nuanced, right?
To think about. And so, with each new wave of theorists, we see a wave of old school theories because they've been sitting on them for so long and want to finally share their ideas.
New games, new mess.
Finally, we get to, I think, the biggest reason that theorists everywhere prefer to talk about the older games. The new games are, if we're honest, a bit of a mess. And I mean that in a few different ways. To start with, let's talk about how Steel Wool does trailers. I hope you're ready for a bit of a rant. Recently, Steel Wool has been posting things that are quote-unquote not teasers. But come on guys, they are definitely teasers. We even got the announcement of Security Breach 2 at the end of it. So naturally, when they phrase something like this, all us theorists want to take a closer look. The issue is, there's not really anything to look at. Some people have made videos on these teasers, talking about things like how the rings are the same color as the glam rock, so this is clearly from the Security Breach era. Or it's in a pool, so maybe it's a VR experience similar to what we see in the Drowning Tales story. But that's kind of all we can say about it. Even in the final one, where they essentially announced Security Breach 2 by hiding a 2 inside of Vanny's eye, great, we found out there's a new game coming, but anything about that game is kind of going to be speculative at best because these images don't actually tell us anything. Even with the trailers they release, they're fine as trailers. They show off a bunch of cool moments, but for theorists, they leave a lot to be desired. Both Secret of the Mimic and Help Wanted 2 were just narrated by Fazbear's classic voice, saying how the job is bad, but you'll be okay, probably. There are Easter eggs like the Monty cutout or the Fazreg port, but these are more like pieces that we don't have any direction on because we don't get any sense of where the story is going. Back in the day, we used to get a lot of teasers on Scott's website that were full of secret little mysteries. Either we up the brightness to reveal a phrase that we needed to solve, or we'd be told that the game was cancelled due to gas leaks, only to up the brightness and reveal it was a news article about an in-universe location. We'd check the source code to reveal a conversation between Baby and the Fun Times, telling us that Baby got kicked out of Ennard. This was the stuff that got us excited. They felt like they were building the world and telling us things that we could connect to previous games and books to help us predict what might be happening next and explain more of that story. But now it just feels like we are literally getting teased. These are presented in a way that implies there's a mystery to be solved, but it also just feels so disconnected, like the main piece of the puzzle is being hidden until the actual game comes out, which means we can't really do anything with it. Sometimes I wonder if this goes back to Steel Wool and their security breach trailer. I'm sure we all remember this iconic trailer. We did a theory based on that trailer, like we do with most big trailers, trying to predict what it meant for the upcoming game and its story. Matt later said that Steel Wool actually emailed him asking if he had a man on the inside feeding him information. Woo! Looks like we got it right. And then none of that story appeared in the final game. Now, I'm not going to stand here and debate the whole did they
Interesting, that was them? Huh.
change the story thing. That's being done to death. But what I wonder is if that instance of them giving us an actually very compelling trailer with us then supposedly getting it right meant that they're now afraid of giving us too much. If they give us too much to work with, we might all just figure out the game, which in their minds could end one of two ways. Either we guess the story and then when the game comes out we're disappointed because there's no surprises, or we guess the story but then the game changes as game development often does, and so once again none of what they presented shows up in the game, and so we're all mad that we didn't get what we thought we were getting. I'm not saying they need to give away everything in a trailer, absolutely not. That's actually a big issue in Hollywood right now. What I'm saying is you can have a trailer or teaser that leaves a little story direction, which if you're smart enough to put together with other parts of the teasers and trailers or even the books, can tell you the story. But for most people, it will just be completely missed. I get it, it's a tough situation to be in. But right now it feels like they've gone too far in the other direction, so afraid to give us anything that we can actually work with, that we end up with these trolly nothing burger posts that, sure, some people might be able to make a quick 15-minute video on or discuss on a live stream, but it's a flash in the pan. It doesn't really fill the gap in the lack of content like old teasers and trailers did, and so people move back to solving the old FNAF mysteries because there's actually enough there to work with. Enough to make an actual theory rather than just pure speculation. And here's the thing, that lack of direction for the story isn't just for the new teasers that are coming out. It's also been a problem that we've been feeling for the entirety of the Steel Wool era. I've already spoken about how the older stories feel more compelling than the newer ones, especially when it comes to things like the villain. But it also feels more compelling to theorists because the game makes it very clear what mysteries we're trying to solve. Here is obvious villain Purple Guy, so we try and solve who he is. Here we learn about the 5 missing kids in the posters, so what happened to them? We're introduced to the crying child, and then in a book we're shown puzzles about solving a name, which makes us go, oh yeah, he doesn't have a name, does he? Those questions are presented pretty front and center, and so as a
Except the survival logbook has stuff that no one has ever been able to figure out or have the pieces for. I mean, that's always been the case, right? I mean, it's just...
theorist community, we had direction on what we needed to focus on and solve. Since Security Breach, however, we felt a little bit rudderless. Again,
I don't think that's what happened. I think that Steel Wool didn't have enough information to put story together. I didn't have much direction for the game, like Scott said. Yeah, I think that's the case for Security Breach, obviously. And then with Ruin, the direction became very, very clear that it's about the Mimic, right? And the books also have made it extremely clear what the recent games are entirely about. It's just that no one really cares or is looking at the books because they've been... Okay, listen, I gotta calm down. This is what upsets me. The issue is not... The fact is, we've just been so tired of infighting, right? We have been so focused on fighting over the book's canonicity that we haven't focused on like what the books actually say. We've been so focused on like, oh, what era is better rather than like focusing on the actual content of the books themselves or the games, right? I think there's so much there. I think there's so much stuff there. And I mean, we could talk about that. We have talked about it. And I think there are answers, but if you have to get out of this mindset of everything being so concrete and understand a little bit of how to read things, you know, that was what we were talking about yesterday with the whole method that I use for reading the books, which is the repetition, the continuation, the symbolism, and how all of those connect together to present things that are interesting that you wonder if they're going to be relevant in the games. It's a good basis for a theory.
Look at how many Secret of the Mimic prediction theories we did before it came out. We did that because it was the only obvious mystery to solve. Security Breach is infamously a mess of environmental storytelling with a bunch of Easter eggs that mean nothing and details that make very little sense on their own or even when connected to other clues. The game is also so big that we are still discovering things to this day. Technically, this means there are a bunch of mysteries to solve. We just don't know which ones we're supposed to be focused on, and which clues connect to one another and which are just separate mysteries. Are we supposed to be solving what happened to the missing kids? The only mention we get of them is one line from Gregory and a newspaper during the bad ending. Are we supposed to be solving what the Mimic is going to do next? We know it wanted to get Cassie into the basement to let it out, but other than being free, its motivations are a bit obscure. Are we supposed to figure out if Edwin is still alive? It sounded like he died, but in the books he didn't, so it could go either way. And how important are any of these things to the actual plot of these games? It is impossible to tell. And part of that is down to how Steelwool is telling the story in this era of games. In the Afton era, all the pieces were in place for us. We just had to work hard to put them together. From that, we might have a few interpretations of how they could fit, which would then help us solve the story and maybe predict the next game. Then a new game would come out with some extra info that would inform and clarify those details. However,
Unless you're talking about FNAF 4.
in this new era, while we're still getting lots of little pieces of information that technically fit together, it's vague as to how. In the next game, we then get a massive piece of revelationary information that we could never have predicted that ties everything together. Like in Security Breach, there was basically zero way to predict the Mimic existed and was the one in control. Hence, we
That is not necessarily true. It is a stretch, and like with this, okay, if you're talking Security Breach, right, the release of Security Breach, you could infer that there was something that was mimicking, right? That's something that famously MatPat predicted with Glitch Trap, right? The fact that it's like mimicking Afton's past. Though that's not necessarily completely true. But also, I mean, Scott made it very clear that this was a continuous story, that it's hard to put the pieces together when they're not all there. And obviously, Security Breach is a stepping stone in a greater story. But, okay. Secret of the Mimic was being planned as soon as 2022, early 2022, in the concept art. Steelwool talked about how they were talking about this game since early 2022. Which, for comparison, Security Breach came out December of 2021, which means months after the release of Security Breach, they were already talking about Secret of the Mimic. And in an interview with Steelwool, they talked about how they wanted to make a Fredbear's, not a Fredbear's game, a Fazbear Entertainment origin game. And I think that very much was meant to hint at the Mimic, right? The Secret of the Mimic, right? And the fact that months before or months after the release of Security Breach, they were talking about Secret of the Mimic, that means the concept of the Mimic was already in there. The therapy tapes already make it very, very clear the Mimic is established, right? And there's so many parallels between that and the books. Security Breach was a mess, right? That is true. But I think everything after that, I think has laid the pieces together pretty interestingly, right? And there's a lot of elements to it. But I think that's fun, right? I don't think that's what... Okay.
made a whole theory about Mrs. Afton being in charge. It wasn't until Ruin that the Mimic was revealed, which then made us all go back and start connecting the dots. Or the whole, are the books canon debate. There were signs that they weren't, but it was impossible to tell for sure without the release of Secret of the Mimic. It's a small but important difference in approach. One has a bunch of pieces that can be put together beforehand, and then gives you potential confirmation of your theory after the fact. The other has a bunch of pieces that don't really feel connected, only coming together when you have one specific piece which isn't revealed until...
Hold on. I'm gonna pause because I gotta go to the bathroom. We're done, guys. Okay, we'll Okay, continue.
the next game. This leaves theorists with a feeling of, what's the point? I know I've certainly felt that. Why bother trying to solve mysteries we do see, because we're clearly missing the key cornerstone to it, and we'll just get rug pulled when the next game comes out anyway. Theorizing is fun, and we sometimes just want to do thought experiments to see what would happen, but we also like trying to get things right. We do want to solve things. And if we can't do that before the next game, why should we try? It doesn't help that these games are now coming out super far apart. I've already talked about us being in a FNAF drought, but those are becoming way more common. The first 4 games all came out within
so unrealistic,
13 months
These
of
games
each other. Sister
were so much smaller than anything that's being created now. And Scott is an insane madman who created these within weeks. And like, that's insane. That is not an expectation that we should have. This is what gets me riled up. This is not an expectation we should have as a community. Yes, it was incredible when it happened, but the fact that in 2023 we had 2 major games release, and one of them, and then a FNAF movie, right? 2023 being an incredible year. And then in 2024, we had Into the Pit. In 2025, we had Secret of the Mimic. In 2026, we've got no games, but guess what? We got the announcement of 2 games, and we're getting a collaboration of some kind, right? And we're getting FNAF 3 likely next year. What is our problem? What is our problem? We are so full of content. It's so annoying that this is a complaint. Franchises don't do this. This doesn't happen. They get released years and years because games are getting more expensive, graphic cards are getting more expensive, the world we live in, it's getting harder and harder to keep employees, but also it's important to keep good employees, right? It's a business, rise. Games aren't performing as they are whenever they have higher budgets. Typically indie games are making more money than these AAA games right now. So it's like it's harder to get everything together to make a bigger game like this.
Location was a little over a year later, Pizzeria Sim was a little over a year again, Ultimate Custom Night was just half a year, Help Wanted was just under a year, and then Security Breach, 2.5 years.
Oh my gosh.
Then
wow, 2.5 years after multiple delays and apology games that Scott made, like Fury's Rage and stuff. But in between there, you had FNAF AR. In between this, you had FNAF World. I mean, FNAF AR wasn't everyone's cup of tea, but I mean, it was there, and it was a steady bit of content to keep people talking. You also had Curse of Dreadbear. I mean, you had multiple DLCs and stuff.
Ruin was almost 2 years after that, although...
And that was actually intentional because they had the game finished within 6 months, but it was completely and utterly broken, so Scott delayed it until it was ready. And that's what needed to happen because of Security Breach, because they learned their mistake. All of these
that was just DLC. Help Wanted 2 was 2 years after Security Breach, and Secret of the Mimic was a year and a half after that. I guess we technically had Into the Pit and FNAF AR in
Well, yeah, but I mean, those are fantastic games.
between some of those, but in terms of mainline games that we can 100% use for lore purposes,
You can use Into the Pit for lore purposes.
you can see how the gaps are just getting bigger than they used to be. Now, look,
Cool. It's like,
game development takes time,
Yeah,
and
it
I
does.
think for a lot of us, we'd rather still will take more time on a game so that it looks good rather than just rushing it out the door. But that does come with a consequence for the theorist community. When there's larger gaps between games, there becomes less and less to talk about over time. During the original run of games, Matt could barely get a theory out before Scott released the next game. This kept the conversation and theorizing going over a year, and then by the time those mysteries were solved, it was time for Sister Location. Not to mention there were a bunch of books to fill the gaps, but since Help Wanted, they've taken more and more time, and you combine
and that is because of financial reasons, right? Help Wanted 2 didn't perform the way that it wanted to, and so that it had to prioritize the flat version of it rather than finishing the VR version. And that was a whole complicated situation. The fact is, people aren't playing the games. That's the biggest problem. People aren't actually playing and picking up and actually engaging with the content. We've had lower performances for these. It is insane to me that Secret of the Mimic has a lower rating than Security Breach. But the caveat to that being that it's including Ruin, right, which is a great DLC in my opinion, but I don't know. It just feels like a lot of complaining.
that with what I've already said about there not being any clear direction in terms of which mysteries we should focus on, or the fact they're hiding key information from us, it means that after a couple of months, the games have been talked about as much as they can. And so we go back to the old games where new games might help us fill in those mysteries rather than just trying to solve new ones. Basically, I think this last year of FNAF theorizing has been the culmination of a number of things. The lack of new games, new theorists joining the platform, nostalgia being king, and the newer era just feeling a little bit lackluster compared to the OG run. That's not to say that things can't and won't change. We've got a bunch of new releases next year. Maybe Security Breach 2, whether it's just from better marketing or from the game itself, will end up seeing a shift back to people finally feeling like they can solve the new era of FNAF. Maybe the FNAF World 2 that got announced by Mega Cat Studios will be set within the older timeline of games to follow on from the original FNAF world in order to help put those mysteries to rest and forcing us to look forward at new ones because that's all that will be left to solve. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory! Thanks for watching.
I like Tom, though. I mean, I think it's fine.
And thanks again to War Thunder.
It's a little bit of a cynical take on things, and I don't necessarily agree with it. And it just makes me upset because it's not really, I'm not upset at Tom. Tom's just doing his job, but I'm more upset at the greater community because, quite frankly, I just think we do more complaining than we do theorizing at this point, which is getting quite annoying. I don't know. It's just, especially with everything switching, everyone being very, very hyped for all of the content that's coming out right now. We ask for stuff, Scott gives it to us. Every game that Steel Wool's released has been trying to be an improvement from the last, and it genuinely feels like they actually are trying to listen to criticism. And whenever it comes to like the story clarity, I think there's plenty of stuff to dive into with Secret of the Mimic. But like, at the end of the day, right, FNAF isn't the only franchise people play. And I mean, other games come out, you can play those as well. Like Deltarune and stuff, which I also think is a very good game. I really like. It just annoys me. I don't know. It just feels like, I don't know, a lot of complaining. That is funny. Oh, yes. That is interesting. So it's like a repeat of like the FNAF 4 whole situation where it's like there's an intentional set of Easter eggs that I feel like there's puzzle pieces there, but people they aren't putting it together. And I mean, it's almost the question of like the survival guide where it's like, is it the puzzle designer's fault? And in a way, if the vast majority of people aren't getting it, then that is in a way the puzzle designer's fault. But sometimes the puzzle designer just wants to make a puzzle and doesn't really care if it's solvable or not, but simply just wants to create something. And in art, that is completely okay. But whenever it comes to like storytelling, it is a little bit more fickle. But Scott has always been kind of, out of the box whenever it comes to his storytelling methods, right? Through environmental storytelling, through surprising us, the twists and turns. I think that we have a lot of good things to look forward to, a lot of really fun things to look forward to. But I mean, we have a whole lot of content to cover that I think just isn't talked about enough. With Secret of the Mimic, I think there's just, I don't know. I feel like I don't know. It's a downer. I'm still here. The Yellow Rabbit, welcome, welcome. How are you doing? We just finished watching the game theory, the problems with modern FNAF, and now I'm depressed. I feel depressed now. My energy has left. I'm so tired now. It's exhausting. Oh, man. Yeah. Ugh. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It feels like that everything that we've asked for so far has been fulfilled at this point. We're getting constant marketing and advertising from Stillwell, not Stillwell, but Scott's Games. We're getting a future collaboration that's pretty exciting. There's plenty of stuff to look forward to, like Security Breach 2, FNAF 2, World 2. With the books and everything, I mean, we've got a lot of things to theorize about Security Breach 2 because it feels like there's a lot of teasers for that. Hey, Donnie, welcome back. I hope you're doing well. This video broke me. This is really broke me. I don't know what to do now. Uh, I'm sorry. I this touches all the pet peeves that I've been trying to avoid, and it just goes into them, and I'm just so annoyed by it. There's also a real life Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. I know, I'm so excited. I might actually, like, not even unironically, I might take a trip to New Jersey when that happens. Because I'm excited. I genuinely am so excited. I mean, look, this collaboration might get me to play Fortnite. I might play Fortnite if there's a collaboration. Because I want to see the pizzeria. I think that's gonna be fun. As far as the mystery element of it, it's like, what are we supposed to be solving? I mean, I think the games are just bigger, the stories are more complex, and Security Breach was not a very good base for it, but I think that it ultimately was fixed with Ruin, as far as like what the central focus of everything will be. And I think that you know, the main conflict will be between M1 and M2. That is going to be the central idea of M2 fighting for independence and M1 trying to conform M1 or M2 to itself. So to me, that's the main conflict. It is the conflict between healing and destruction, which is Cassie and Gregory. Cassie is a healer, while Gregory is a destroyer, somebody who destroys and does not rebuild. Vanessa is a character that is a reluctant follower, somebody who's bound to trauma and has to figure out how to, and carrying the whole costume of a rabbit is somebody who runs away, right? And then, which technically, if you want to be real about it, Princess Quest, while it is her defeating Glitch Trap, it isn't really her, is it? It's us, right? Kind of forcing that change. So it's the question of like, did Vanessa actually confront her trauma? Is that finished? Is that how Vanessa comes back, or Vanny? Because Vanny is a personification, manifestation of the trauma, and it's interesting. I'm curious to see how that's going to relate to Cassie. I think there's a lot of things that we don't know. One thing that is strange to me that I will say, so FNAF AR has this thing, had a lot of interesting marketing associated with it. There was a lot of ARG elements that were pretty awesome, actually. Scott and Illumix did a really good job whenever it comes to like cryptic teasers and like the Reddit account that they created, which was Looking Glass backwards. One of the things that they did with that I think is really interesting is there's a lot of references to a spirit or seemingly entity that is initialed as C. And we never get any follow-up for it, but it is presumably Cassidy, considering it's associated with It's Me. So Cassidy is texting someone 1,111 times specifically. And what's interesting about that, right, is like November 11th is one of the dates that is FNAF 1 and 2, I think, take place in. But not only that, Cassie, her birthday, not birthday, but like she turned 11 seemingly on her birthday, and that's the one. And Cassie, or Roxy says, like, you're number one twice. And it's interesting that Cassie has this association with one, because the C initialed on the phone also had an association with 1111, which is weird, and presumably is Cassidy. Cassidy. It's weird. It's weird. All right, I don't have any explanation for it, but seemingly it says the text messages that are sent is being sent to somebody who's in a very dark, ominous room, filled with a bunch of scrapped animatronic parts, and it says, I'm going to come find you." That about the mic thing. And Ruin, when you put on the mask and the nodes are broken in the room before the mimic chase, are those the Roxy nodes that we broke, or did someone else dismantle those nodes? I believe that's actually somebody planting or trying to make the nodes, and it seems to be Gregory. Gregory is a big fat liar. While he says he's not in the room, in reality, I think he is. Because in that room you find the backpack that belongs to Gregory. And it's strange to me that there's just a walkie-talkie that happens to be Gregory's favorite character that seemingly was given to him by Gregory, considering the backpack. And the Roxy walkie-talkie is out in front of the lobby, which just happens to be Cassie's favorite character. So there's a lot of weird setup stuff that seemingly points to someone orchestrating all of this, right? And if you look on the area that you get the Vanny mask and the rest of the game, you see in the dirt there is an asset that is small shoe prints in the dirt. So somebody else has already been here, and they likely are the one who has planted it. And it is notably a child's footprint, or I don't know. I guess it would be like a young kid, like probably around Cassie's age. So it would be like potentially Gregory. I think so too, because the elevator room is pointed right at Cassie, and it's on cause it's on a yellow hue. Interesting. So I think there's a lot of things going on, right? A lot of orchestrations and plans being made. And we know that at the end of Help Wanted 2, the mask was passed on to the old man, who presumably, in my mind, is actually M2. I think M2 gets the mask, gets control of the Vanny network, takes it away from Glitchtrap, and is now using it for its own purposes and help in Ruin, right? Which is interesting, right? Hello, welcome. Oh, dang, everyone's getting in here. No, the camera, not room. Interesting. Yeah, everyone just got in here. Welcome, guys. This is good because I was feeling really down from watching the newest FNAF game theory. So, yay, we got a lot of people in here. I don't know why it said room. The camera was pointed at Cassie while Gregory is talking to her. Interesting. I don't remember that. But Ruin is really interesting. There's a lot of fun details that kind of foreshadow Mimic stuff. Like 3 animatronics are in the upstairs daycare. There's a house in the fixed version when you put on the mask that's clean. And notably, the motif of 3 gets repeated a lot. And there's 3 people in the house. That is like Roxy, Monty, and Freddy, I think. That I think potentially could like represent Fiona, David, and Edwin. And you get a lot of imagery of like there's a lot of interesting imagery that you see in Secret of the Mimic. I found a working plasma TV. Oh dang, great, that's awesome. You don't like Cassidy? As in like the vengeful spirit idea, or the like Cassie from Ruin? Whom are you speaking of? That is the question. To who? I do not know. Yeah, and that's kind of interesting, right? You don't like anyone who hits cats. Interesting. All right. By World Thunder. No, this is just like a random advertisement for it. Also, guys, I did actually film my reaction to the Living Tombstone new song, dude. Okay, why did no one tell me? Why did no one tell me that the new Living Tombstone song went so freaking hard? Like, my gosh. So that reaction probably is coming out pretty soon. I've just got to actually upload it and stop being scared of being judged for my reaction, which, I mean, it's a reaction, so it's like whatever. Yeah. It doesn't. But do you think, okay, this is an interesting question, right? Do you think that Vanny or Cassie is in the new teaser? I think it's probably Vanessa, if I had to guess. My hope is, at least, based on like Scott's comment that they were going to be able to do Vanessa again, but hopefully better this time. Um, I tell you, it's so good. The animations are, oh, it's so beautiful. I love the imagery of everything. It's so gorgeous. Oh my gosh. Like, I love them going through all the Living Tombstone songs, and my interpretation of that is, I don't know if it's accurate or not, but I thought it was interesting. I feel like there's some meta commentary on that, of like, everything kind of becoming more artificial and becoming more kind of generic, in the question of like, does true art actually matter? And of course, I think absolutely. I think that song proves that it does. But like the Mimic kind of questioning within itself whether any of its individual actions actually matter at all in the face of everything, and it's like trying to figure out the reason of why it is the way that it is. It's fascinating. Didn't Scott say he won't be making a restaurant? What made him change his mind? Money? Probably. No, I'm joking. I think it's fun. I think it's really fun. And I think he was probably just was approached by American Dream. And everything kind of just lined up. So it's like, I think that it's just is one of those things. So I don't know when we're gonna find out what the collaboration is, but it is, putting me on edge. I don't know. Is it going to be Fortnite? I don't know. I guess we will see. Um, that's a great business idea for real. I mean, it's been something people have been asking for like ever. So I mean, it just kind of makes sense. I do want to watch this theory. FNAF and Undertale have the same lore. I wanna watch this so bad. I will eventually. I don't know. I don't know if I'll do that right now. I kind of was drained from the last theory, so I'm like, ugh, I don't know. Oh man. Ah, it is what it is. Um, Fun fact: did you know that the reason why Springtrap stock's different from the animatronics is it's cause Scott wanted to make him more human, less robotic. I think that's right. Yeah, that's pretty fun. I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, it's in a springlock suit, so it's gonna move differently. Pretty interesting for sure. Well, guys, what are we thinking? Are we wanting to see if we can find some interesting games? I don't know. I'm up for anything. There's so many things that I need to finish. I need to start playing more Control. I need to play some FNAF World and um all sorts of stuff. But I don't know if you guys want to look for potential indie games, because I know there's a lot of stuff. I was looking yesterday And there seemed to be a lot of really fun stuff going on. But I don't know. Down below. Are there any things in our wish list that are... There's so many interesting looking games, not gonna lie. There's always the Backrooms games. I do actually find those really fun, but I don't know. What game do you like to play? I like to play horror games, scary, spooky. Do you think the Tiger Rock will be in the new game? I hope so. You did say you never played Sonic, man, but that feels so like different from the vibe of what I mean, I was wanting to play something a little bit scary. Sonic.exe. No, joking. Stop. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it, please. No. I'm looking at some different ones. That looks interesting. The old rain. No extraction. I was looking yesterday, and some of these looked like really cool. Oh well, Sonic PC is crazy. Dude, we still need to play more commentator, but I feel like I'm gonna lose all my viewers if I do that because you're gonna be staring at a blank screen as I'm trying to figure out what the heck this game is. But I do want to finish that game. I do want to finish it really bad. Commentator is such an interesting, fascinating game that I have like yet to really understand fully. Have you ever played UCN? I would die. I would die so hard. I have not played UCN. A lot of the earlier FNAF games I haven't really played, to be honest. We can play more FNAF World, though. I think I'm stuck on like a certain part. Don't, don't. The yellow rabbit says don't. You know why the yellow rabbit is saying don't? Because the entire point of UCN is to torture him, and he doesn't want to be. Don't try UCN. Don't do it. Please. No. Michael! Michael! Please. The yellow rabbit. Please don't. Haven't I suffered enough? Please. Oh my gosh. Don't. No. Please don't. You know what I have like been in kind of the mood for? Ah man, I'd like to find a nice roguelike game. Man, or is it roguelike? Is that the right I've been playing I want something like Pirate's Gambit. If anybody is aware or knows about that. That was very fun. I really enjoyed that a lot. Michael, don't leave me here. No. Michael, don't leave me here. No. Please help me. Pixel, what is that? Oh man, I have already so many games in my backlog. I really don't need to be looking at these. Oh man. That looks cool. What is that? I know you guys can't see any of the things that I'm looking at, but it's fine. Just imagine the coolest thing you've ever seen in your entire life. And then it's not that, but it's also pretty interesting. I don't know. Static Dread. I feel like I've heard of that game. Oh yeah, that was a game I played a long time ago. Wasn't that something that like utilized at the time it was like not as frowned upon? Uh didn't that utilize like AI responsiveness or something? I guess not anymore. But I feel like Static Dread at one point was experimenting with that back whenever it was like really not as frowned upon. It was like back in like 2021 when I first started my channel. Maybe I'm wrong. Was that? Am I wrong about that? Because this looks freaking awesome. But that was like a game that was kind of like that. Or is this the one? Oh no! I think this is very different. Very different from that. But what was that called? Because I played a bunch of demos. That was like years ago at this point. I don't think that's the game that I'm thinking of. Did I play the demo for that though? Hold the phone. Where's the search function? I forgot where everything is. Okay, maybe I've not played this. Or anything related to it. No, it does not seem like I have. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough, fair enough. Okay. Here, I'm gonna put on music again. That way you guys somewhat entertained. SCP Foundation. You know, I've never played an SCP game. I know there's a movie coming out. I don't know. Anyways, I don't know. I'm not seeing anything that looks particularly interesting to me. So perhaps we shall just play FNAF World. And I can figure out where exactly I'm trying to go, because I'm like stuck. FNAF World. Continue. I think everything is effectively where I want it. Not getting, but killing. Very good. Okay. I completely don't know how to get out of here. Like, legitimately, I don't know where I'm supposed to go. I don't know why it scared me. Maybe like a glitch or something around here. Because otherwise, it's like I can't for the life of me figure out where I'm supposed to go from here. feel like I've been here before. Okay, I'm gonna have to pull up that map again that I had. I had a map of this place pulled up. FNAF World subtunnel. Is I can look and see kind of like which layer I'm on. It'll let me. Okay, there we go. So, okay, I see where I am, but there's no glitches here. This is it. There's no way deeper down. Okay, that leads us then to over here, looking at the system of things. Okay, there's a dot and a straight line, so it should be easy to find relatively. Where is it? Oh, I see it. Okay, it's right there. Okay, there are two glitch trees there, which I do know about, but which one am I supposed to take? So there's a glitch tree, none here. This music is so good. You know there's a secret if you press Control-Alt down arrow? I'm trusting you here. What happened? You probably just hacked my computer. No, check. Okay, is there anything in this area? See where it seems that I am. There's effectively no glitches here, though. Wait, why is there a glitch there? Oh, there is. Oh. Interesting. Okay. Huh. That's fun. So where am I now? I'm seemingly right here. Okay, I see exactly where I am. And in this path there is no further glitches, it seems. Though wait a second. No, it leads okay, it leads right here, but is there anything else? Oh weird. Wait a second. My fan is moving really fast right now. There's another like glitch tree, I guess, that we've blocked from the That's weird. Okay, interesting. I wonder if there's a way into this. There it is. Okay. Oh, that's how you get there. Okay. This is it here. Down we go. This is the weird route. Stupid. Dang, okay. Like we glitched out of the world. I do know. We're falling somewhere. And again, dark. It's this dark background. It is like blinding. Just like hop. Yeah. Messing with me. How do I get out of this? Do I have to close the game? Okay. Oh, I got that ending. Okay, I didn't talk to Old Man Consequence. Dude, I love this game so much. It's so interesting. Bloom's brother, say your theory. Interesting. How did I get there? Probably need to go to the last one. No, it's not that one. Oh gosh. How did I get to that thing? I'm forgetting. I thought I went to this one. Oh, here it is. Okay, we found it. Let me go there. Let me see if there's anything here. Middle fingers, dang. Oh, you're flipping me off. Okay. That's there, so where are we specifically? Okay. We have... No, hold on. I've been charging my headphones. This game is so loud. Hopefully you guys can still hear it. Alright, yes. I think you guys are fine. Okay, I think we're strong enough to go against this guy. I think we're fine. That was insane. that shouldn't have happened. We got a key. Finally, we figured it out. I didn't internalize that there was going to be so much like going down. That was fun. We need to go back and we need to get that. consequence dialogue. That is very true. Okay, so we got the key. I wonder if that... Now let me see. You think Gaster's outfits put monochrome into form? That's pretty crazy. That's interesting though. But aren't clones monochrome? So what if the person who told Chris that clones monochrome is lying? Interesting. I got pretty bunny, yeah. Get pretty lucky. That one. I want to go back to the different shops and see if I can get all the good stuff. Because I should have a lot of money. Okay, I have the best one of this. Healing. I want to just kind of go to the different areas. Because I have not, so look at this. Because I've been using, well, these are better, obviously, because they're later game. But I haven't upgraded my endoskeleton at all. So I have enough of this. I don't know if it makes any difference to, like, buy this too. So obviously this is stronger. I can't buy that yet. It is what it is. Okay. Alright, don't worry about it. Okay. And then, let's go to 3. Because each area has a shop that we can look at. So can I unlock this? Guys, I have an idea. Get her out of here. That did something, I imagine. But what it did scares me. Okay, yeah, I need better gear. I have terrible gear, and I need to get better upgrades so that these things don't kill me. So what do you have? Okay, 2,000. So let me get the better Grim Reaper. Said, I need this, and then healing. Yeah. He's a little little guy. So much fun. Okay, now we need to go into the mines and probably grind for some more money. Let's see. 3. Okay. We could probably go into the mines. fishing game the most efficient way to get money? Okay. The bombs. I don't know if the bombs are worth it. But it could be. Because that's big damage initial. Potentially. That is what we will do. I mean, for 10 out of 100, I mean, you could grind that forever, so... That's right. Okay. Let's see how good we can get at this game. Okay. Oh, I wanted to drop it right there. How do I reload? Oh, in the circus? Okay. Where's that? Not bad. Okay, how do I get this? Because very clearly... That's strange. This is why I wanted better gear. Okay. Dang. Very unintuitive. I guess that's the way to do this. Okay. You have to enter the glitch world. That makes sense. Did I lose anything by that battle? Hold on. Let's look at my bits here. My bytes. Let's look at my chips and see what I have. So I have permanent speed boost. Begins each battle with an extra life. I have attacks right now for everything. Regenerates life. That could be very useful. Auto regen. Endless speed, permanent wish you could see like the stats. That'd be kind of nice. Does the med pack? Do I have the best med pack? I just did attack because if this lowers it by 50%. Oh no. Okay.
There we go.
Okay. Let us go back. And see what we can do. Okay. Maybe that was a mistake getting rid of it, you know? Maybe. You do not. You actually may have it already. Okay, no, I don't think I do. I don't have too many bites. I probably need to look around the map a little bit more. Okay, we got pretty close that time, though. They didn't regenerate this time. We also don't have the best, like, exoskeleton. We need 9,000. We do not have that. So, that'd be kind of nice to have. But again, we kind of have to find a good way to grind that. Oh, here's the circus, okay. Getting that red chip would be really useful. Would you like to know how to get it? Because I'll be real, you probably wouldn't find it by yourself. Yeah, that's fine. I would not mind that knowledge. That's crazy, Blues Brother. I would love that. That'd be freaking awesome. My rent is $1,015 a month. next room. Sorry. Hold on. There we go. Is this the right one? Yeah, right here. Okay. If I keep grinding like this, I should be able to get the, I really want to get the reinforced, endoskeleton. Just, enter a sub-menu to reload. See if the attacks. Now just enter a sub-menu. What do you mean sub-menu? Oh, I get it, sub-menu. Ah, there it is. Oh, that's worth it. Okay, I didn't realize it gave you that much. Okay, so you have to completely close the game, right? So I would effectively have to F2, okay. Oh, is it F2 that reloads it? Okay, I probably didn't have to do that, but that's okay. It's funny that quote is directly something that Michael says in the FNAF 2 movie. Kids can be so cruel. And specifically in regards to Mangle. I didn't even catch that was a reference. Oh, it's fine. I'm not even noticing it. Fine. I will eat your soul. making you a sandwich. What? Still sad. It's gonna do it. Say my name. Is that a Breaking Bad reference? Okay. I could get just really unlucky. Oh. We're getting there. Okay, so I need to push everything again. Mystery box is so funny. Yeah, I don't really particularly know why I keep doing it. It's just, I accidentally hit that instead of Hunt Cheese 2, which is the best, by the way. know this is objectively the correct way to make money, but like also it's like, why is the most convenient way to make money also the most inconvenient? You know? You know what I say? You know what I say? That is how it goes. I suppose. It's getting so cool. I'm taller in person. Gosh. Okay, so as far as our team goes, we're doing pretty good. We're gonna get there, don't worry, guys. Probably will get one. That was exactly much is that, okay, it's 9,000. so we need to do this effectively 8 more times. Oh my gosh! Hold on. So well, I think I'm probably gonna go get some lunch. Not lunch, but some dinner in just a minute. So that sounds good. I know it is. I know. I'm just taking a little bit of a break from it because it is pretty tedious. Unfortunately. But I'm probably gonna go get some dinner. And then come back. Okay, let me see. How long have I been going for? Almost 3 hours. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go eat. I don't know if I'll stream anymore today, but this has been fun. I hope you guys enjoy this. I know it's been a little bit sporadic, a little bit short, but I hope you guys enjoyed this nonetheless. I am definitely going to continue this. Yeah, I'm hungry, man. I need to get some food. But I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys next time. And yeah.